All right, and we're live. Let me just make sure this is going out okay onto the YouTubes, as I always have to do. All right, sounds all right. I'll keep an eye on the chat just in case I go robot. But shit, what a couple of days it's been, hasn't it? So to recap, one of the little girls that's in charge of Marvel Comics put up a picture of her hanging out with all the other little girls that are running Marvel Comics. And, a bunch of people made fun of the fact that a bunch of little girls are running Marvel Comics, and I included. It's got featured in the Telegraph of all places, and I'm sure the Mary Sue has been, all about this. I don't know. I don't read that trash. Apparently there's a guy, Micah Curtis, something like that. He used to work for Blistered Thumbs. I've seen one video of his. It was him talking about his time at Blistered Thumbs. He wanted to get it all out there before Angry Joe, or I'm sorry, about Angry Joe before Jim's video on Angry Joe. And it was a pretty good video. It was an interesting video. I'm like, okay, this guy seems cool. It was a Gamergate guy, apparently, whatever. Well, this fucking faggot, apparently, people are tweeting this at me. Apparently, he was doing a stream where he was whining about all the people harassing Heather Antos, this twat that works for Marvel. Oh, they're giving the other side ammunition, and my pussy hurts. And he was bitching about my tweet, among others, being one of the worst ones. By the way, my tweet, the really bad one that was featured in the Telegraph article, when I retweeted the picture of this, and I was like, this is why Marvel Comics sales are in the toilet, William Rome popped in there and was all like, would bang the chick in the center. And I just joked, I'm like, well, you should have her sign a consent form. She looks like the false rape charge type. Mind you, this is, how like you retweet it with like a caption above it, right? Which people will see in their mentions. Although I never see that in my mentions when I'm on mobile. I only see it on the computer, actually. But yeah, they'll see that in their mentions, but they won't see the replies under that. None of that is added there. So this wasn't even directed at her, and yet it's harassment. It was a joke to a friend that she would have had to go through the replies to even fucking see. And it wasn't even that bad. Mine was the rudest comment featured on that Telegraph article. Wasn't even that bad. Whoopie jack shit. I made fun of, the fact that feminists make false rape charges. Okay. Whoopie jack shit. But anyways, Mika got all fucking pussy hurt about this shit. Oh, you bad misogynies. That typical moderate cuck shit where, you try to tone police to death. Well, apparently people even tweeted at, like I said, I tweeted at him. I'm like, I'm happy to come on and we could talk about this. If you have a problem with something I said, I'll talk to you about it. That's fine. And I mean, I probably would have just come on and just kind of laughed at him and be like, I'm not much for tone police. And it was a joke I made to a friend, whoopie jack shit. I mean, if this young lady can't handle the bants, maybe get back in the kitchen. I don't know what to tell you. Because, that's all it was. It was a little fucking bants. And that's what Twitter's all about, do a little bants. Make a little love. Get down tonight. That's what fucking Twitter is, all right? And if you can't handle it, don't be on fucking Twitter. Don't get me wrong. I can understand what it's like when your mentions are flooded with hateful fucking comments, because trust me, I got fucking worse than Heather did, all right, past couple of days. And it's really telling to the weak-ass fucking power of the mainstream media. I didn't get that much. I'm featuring an article in Telegraph. I didn't get that fucking much. Don't get me wrong. There was a shit ton of it. But it should have been like, if the mainstream media was half as powerful as you would think they are, it should have been like, you know, hundreds of fucking. The mention should have just been going by like the fucking chat on a, you know, Alex Jones stream or something. And I didn't get that much, but I got some nasty shit. Don't get me wrong. Worse than what she got. But you know what? I just fucking moved on with my life. I'm an adult. You know? These strong, independent women at Marvel can't handle slightly fucking rude, salty comments on Twitter. Oh, you know, whoa, man. Yeah, it's just fucking unreal. And for this Mika, look, I don't know much about this Mika guy. Like I said, saw one video of his I liked. I think I subscribed, because I was subscribed when somebody sent me the link to his thing. So I think I subscribed after that video. That's the only video of his I watched. I promptly unsubscribed because I'm like, oh, he's a faggot. I didn't know. Okay. I didn't listen to any of his video or his stream on me. I'm almost certain it's not worth my time. But I did get a link. Apparently he even unlisted it or some shit. I don't know. Like, it's out there. You can still listen to it, but it's not like on his YouTube page. But what a faggot! You know, and he even politely was like, "Yeah, you know, come on." But people were tweeting him like some people had already suggested that to him, and he doesn't feel he needs to defend his accusations. What a faggot! You know, cuck harder, nigga. I mean. No, Mika, you go ahead. You go ahead and roll over and show your belly to these fucking SJW scum. And they'll know that you're one of the good ones. Yeah, that's gonna work out fucking great for you, isn't it? That's gonna work out just fucking fantastic. And you would think, like I tweeted at, you know, that guy who was like, it's called free speech, you communist faggot, and he's holding the sign that says like you deserve rape. Oh, I actually saw somebody tweet that a couple days ago. Not at Heather, mind you. This was something else. That was that fucking article of the feminists that were bitching about the Dunkirk movie had too many men in it or some bullshit. But it's not like I tweeted that picture at her or something. You know? None of it was threatening. None of it was harassing either. Even. Again, the rudest comment I have fucking seen is mine, and it wasn't even directed at her. She would have had to dig to see it. And it wasn't that bad in the first fucking place. I would have said it at her. I don't fucking care. It's just not the way Twitter works. She didn't end up added in it. So yeah, somebody in the chat says, wait, Mika Curtis is doing this? Yes, Mika Curtis was rolling over and showing his belly. And because he just become a faggot, you know? Whatever. Fuck him. You know, if he ever grows a fucking pair of balls, he can come on this channel or I can come on his and he can, you know, say shit actually to me. You know, he can give me a chance to defend myself to whatever bullshit he was saying about me. But, you know, I don't suspect that's going to happen anytime. Always with the fucking metalheads acting like pussies, too. But that's a whole different topic. Metalheads all fucking acting like Jordan Owen. But yeah, it was fucking pathetic. Oh yeah, dude, you way to stand up. Way to stand up for the fucking geekdom. Good for you. The fucking White Knights just rolling over, just fucking battling for the honor of Milady. It's just sad. It's honestly sad, and I mean the whole industry has. Marvel has basically done its gamers are dead moment. Marvel has all but committed war on essentially its fucking fans. You know, it's bread and butter, and Marvel's essentially declared war on it. And the weird thing is that I guess it's just how indicative of how things are polarized. But like, creators who used to not be like this are siding with this shit. I don't know if they just don't want to just not be blacklisted or something like that. But it's just really amazing. And this is blowing up. This isn't going away. I know. I mean, the comic book industry has basically declared war on that diversity in comics channel. Um, Marvel in particular has. I mean, all DC has to do is just step back and just fucking make good old fashioned superhero books, and they're gonna make mad fucking bank here. While Marvel shoots itself in the dick over and over and over again, unloads a clip, reloads, and proceeds to continue shooting itself in the dick. Um, so he says, Bechtloff, have you watched Adeline Paladin's video on this? She did the stream last night about it. I've seen a few of her stuff. I don't watch her stuff that regularly. I don't know if somebody says, when did Mika do this? And yes, I know I'm coming on late in the stream. It's Pastor Tom, actually. Good to hear from you, Pastor Tom. Anyways, Mika did this on a stream apparently this morning. People were tweeting it at me. Like, that's the other thing. Like, this is apparently going to blow up into a comic gate. It's really starting to look like this may really just, and I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this whole thing's going to shake out, but it's far from over. Oh, the interesting thing is the what was it? Make Mine Milkshake hashtag that they tried to. It's funny how the left tries to like dispute everything, like we're like anybody's like mad at this woman for drinking a milkshake. No, I'm mad that fucking 13-year-old girls appear to be running Marvel Comics. But this Make Mine Milkshake thing where people take like pictures of themselves with milkshakes to in solidarity to the poor milady. They can barely get that to trend. It trended a little bit and then it fell off the trending thing and trended a little. Like the left, you know, they got erectile dysfunction for their fucking hashtag. They can't keep that shit up. The left is bad at interneting. They really are. Probably because it takes a little bit of a thick skin to do the interneting. So Marvel is spoony now. Yes, Marvel's gone full spoony. And their milkshake brings all the white knights to the yard. And they're like misogynies. So yeah, fuck Mika Curtis. You know, on the off chance you should hear this, Mika, you want to grow a pair of balls? We can talk about it. About this shit you had to say about me, which I'm not even sure exactly what he had to say about me. Again, I didn't listen to the stream. I haven't been home most of the day, to be honest. That's the other thing. If this turns into a fucking comic gate, like I can't. I don't know. I'm not gonna be able to do much. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'll stream about it, I'll talk about it, and I'll do some bants on the Twitter and all. But that's about it. And like, I don't know. I just this has kind of sucked me into doing some internet in the last few days, the last week or so. I haven't really felt like doing a great deal of internet, and you know what I mean. Like, yeah, it's nice to sit here and stream. It's a good, if nothing else, it's a good, you know, good way to vent some inner thoughts. And you all seem to find it entertaining, and I appreciate the hell out of that. But you know, I have a smartphone. But it's just a BlackBerry, to be honest, because I just like having a keypad. Touch screens kind of piss me off sometimes. This does have a touch screen, but it also has a keypad, thankfully, so I can type in peace. But like when I'm on Twitter, you know, there's a lot of things on the mobile Twitter you can't do, or like if somebody does that retweet with like commenting above it, I can't see that in my mentions and that kind of shit. Mr. Matoku needs to do a video on this to get it to take off. You should contact him, Bechtloff. I'm sure he already knows about it. Bechtloff, you can be the next Sargon. You can be a YouTube star. I don't really want to do that. I don't know. I get past few days I've just been kind of like a little burned out with all the internet. And I mean, it's nice to do these streams, and I enjoy them. And I really enjoy doing the VidMe videos. Those I love doing. It'd be a funny Hugbox Chronicles. Yeah, it would. This milkshake thing. Bechtloff avocado. But I don't know. I've been out in the meat space here lately, and it's kind of nice. You know, I've been doing some of that normie shit, and it's actually kind of nice. You know what I mean? I, I don't have a lot in me left to be much of a comic gate guy, and at some level, I'm almost kind of glad that the left is actually destroying pop culture. That's going to get a lot of people to wake up when you don't even have the bread and circuses anymore. You know, when they want to piss on everything you find fun, every distraction from life. You know, they want to faggot up the NFL with like pink jerseys and fucking whining about people bumping their heads and Black Lives Matter horse shit shoved into it. You know, a lot of people use that as their escape. Marvel Comics, you want to make Marvel Comics basically fucking unreadable. A lot of nerds use that as their escape. Video games, the past several years, they've wanted to shit up video games. A lot of motherfuckers use that as an escape. The movies, I mean, there's nothing at the movies, damn near. It's the one thing Marvel fans still have going for them is that the movies are decent. But outside of comic book movies, what the fuck is Hollywood even making anymore? Reboots where they turn your most beloved franchises into gay, black, transsexual, you know, fucking lesbians or whatever, you know, in a wheelchair, no less. That'll be the next RoboCop. Mark my word. It'll be a fucking gay Latinx with fucking autism. That'll be the next RoboCop. But yeah, I like today, like I wasn't even home at all today. Yeah, I'm checking my fucking phone and for Facebook and Twitter and shit, and a little bit of the bants and stuff. But I'm not gonna fucking listen to some fat fuck's fucking live stream where he whines that I hurt my lady's feelings. You know, cause it makes our side look bad. We gotta show them that we're not really like that. Didn't we fucking learn anything from fucking the failures of Gamergate? Like that shit doesn't work. Not Your Shield, was the least of. It was the least successful part of Gamergate, in my opinion, because it's meeting them on their terms. Yes, there was plenty of minorities involved in Gamergate. There were plenty of women involved in Gamergate, but Gamergate didn't need that to be legitimate. If Gamergate would have been nothing but straight white men, it would have been legitimate. Because everything that the anti-Gamergate people were doing was defending the indefensible. You need to stop buying into this argument that it has to be a fucking, Latino chick or a fucking gay black dude with autism or something to have a point heard. But yeah, just all day today. I'm not even home. I had lunch with my father. This morning I was home, but this morning I was making phone calls, I was chasing down some job leads actually. I went out on the river on a buddy of mine has a boat, which is fucking fantastic. Having a boat's nice, but it's far better to have a buddy with a boat because then you get to enjoy a boat without having to fucking take care of a boat. It's great. Yeah, fucking time for some of this shit. I got some stuff going on in the fucking personal life right now. I'm job hunting first of all, but other stuff, good stuff. But yeah, I don't. Somebody says Bechtloff is sexist because he has a healthy relationship with his father. Yep. Bechtloff has started a movement now. He can be like Richard Spencer and White Knight for degenerates and get punched in the face by a shit-eating cock. Bechtloff, did you see Mr. Matoku's new video on YouTube censorship? Was that just out today? I didn't. Last video I saw was his Angry Joe video. Let's get Mika on the channel so we can have a debate like the Honest and Blair White debate. Look, I mean, I never saw that, so I couldn't tell you. But look, Mika can come on this channel any fucking time he wants. In fact, I would invite him to do just that. And yeah, I took a lot of pot shots at him here because I think he's being a little bitch. But I'd be more than polite to him. I would be more than civil to him. Everybody comes on here is treated with certainly at least as much respect as they're willing to give. But at least when they first come on, they're treated with the utmost respect, regardless of whether or not they deserve it. That may go down depending on their behavior on here, but that's a whole different thing. Mr. Matoker sent a new video a couple hours ago. Again, I haven't really been home, so I haven't seen it. Bechtloff, I predicted destruction of bread and circuses will lead men to seek their dreams and ambitions instead of entertainment. We see it happening right here, right now. To some extent, yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's going to just really, it's the death knell of the left. I can tell you that much. When you insist on taking from the people you've been fucking over the last thing they have. Yeah. YouTube went out and said they plan on banning people over controversial opinions, even if they follow the guidelines. It's been coming. Yeah, that's been coming for a while. I mean, there's a reason I put the more produced videos on VidMe. I don't want YouTube yanking them all fucking down or whining about this or that or whatever. VidMe seems like a better platform. As soon as if VidMe allows for streaming, I may move over there entirely. You think VidMe will replace YouTube? I would just be happy with VidMe getting big enough to keep YouTube on its tails. I'd rather we just have some fucking competition out here. Bechtloff, thoughts of the company that microchipped its employees? My first thought was it's like that fucking. I saw the trailer for this movie called The Belko Experiment, and the employees in that are microchipped. It just made me think of that, and I've been meaning to see that movie actually, but. Let's see. Transgender man gives birth to baby. He's so brave. I'm the fucking trannies. So sick of the fucking trannies. I'm so sick. No, there are fucking 4 lights. You are not. You have an X and Y chromosome. You're a fucking male. Period. If you don't, you're female. That's how the shit works. Word to the wise, VidMe caters to SJWs, or so I've heard. Well, in all fairness, everything I put on VidMe is extremely apolitical anyway. So, hell, the most controversial thing I said on VidMe was I had a brief little comment where I made fun of King of Pole for recording all his videos vertically, and I said he looked like a fucking. It was like he was a fucking dindu uploading shit to World Star Hip Hop. Did they assume the baby's gender? Actually, you can get simpler than that. If you give an egg, you're a woman. If you give sperm, you're a man. Let's see. Sam Hyde vertical videos. The most controversial thing was probably saying the Amish deserve to drown in shit. I don't know. How can that be controversial? That just seems self-evident. Oh yeah, Azalea Rose is asking about the Trump thing. Yeah, it's fallen apart. Like basically there was a botched entrapment job, as she points out, and um, Davis is streaming right now. Bechtloff, you should join him. Oh, I apologize. I didn't mean to step on Davis's stream. And he does do Tuesday nights. That's my oversight. Whereas I just do fucking streams when I feel like doing streams. So, um, but see, like, I don't know if it bothers Davis. It doesn't really bother me because, like, I'm not extremely concerned of how much my live audience is. I mean, I want some people as my live audience because I rely on looking at the chat and responding to it for the weekday shows. But it's funny, man. A while ago, I got burned out doing Saturday and Wednesday, and now I'm doing like every fucking night. But no, I don't care how much listens live. I want good numbers to listen to it. Period. But the vast majority of the people that listen to it don't listen to it live, so that's fine. I mean, I mean, shit, go listen to Davis's live then. I don't mind. You can listen to this later. People seem to fucking love the Amish in my experience. They think they craft good shit, which they don't. Are harmless, apparently. No, they're not. But you're right. People have, and it's always people that are nowhere fucking near them. People that have to deal with them quickly learn otherwise. I have to admit, I haven't paid as much attention to the Trump Russia shit. I'm really not, like, I don't watch the mainstream media almost at all. I mean, maybe a little bit of Fox. I'll watch a little bit of Tucker or something like that. But, like, I'm not going to fucking tune into CNN or some shit like that. Oh, I started playing through Saints Row 2 a few weeks ago. And last night, my camcorder's battery had died, so I didn't do it. But I was going to, like, take a real quick picture of the screen, like, with my character. And it's this redhead chick I made as my character. And I'd just be like, see, I can't be sexist. I made my character female in Saints Row. But yeah, Saints Row 2 is one of my favorite games ever. Saints Row 2 is the best Grand Theft Auto game ever. Oh, here's something. Because I'm playing around with the camcorder a little bit more. Because I don't know, thinking of maybe doing actual videos. Maybe appearing on videos, something along those lines. And I was thinking it's kind of a test video for it. And I'll let the chat see what they think of this. But I was thinking of kind of just doing a sort of tour of my bookshelf, my big bookshelf where I get, my nerd / shitlord bookshelf, A lot of the books on politics and theology I got up there, a good amount of my nerd books, that sort of thing. And just sort of go through, I mean, only like probably a 5-minute video, but just maybe 10 if I get on a rant on something, but just kind of go through and be like, quickly go through. Here's a bunch of the books I've read, some of the books that really mean shit to me and that kind of stuff. And so I don't know, like, with that sort of tour of my bookshelf kind of thing, is that something that would be interesting, or is that like too far up my own ass? Because I know a lot of people they do that sort of thing, or like, here's my game collection or something. I don't know if anybody really finds that stuff like interesting or not. So I mean, by the way, people are saying like if I was on camera, like wear a mask or something, don't show my face. Believe me, I mean, my face is out there if you want to fucking dig. But it's not just immediately out there for. I actually think those like character sunglasses they have with like something over it. I was actually thinking of getting a Bulbasaur pair of those. Bechtloff tries it. Yeah, I'm gonna do Bechtloff tries it. We're like, what's up, YouTube? I'm here with the new mozzarella chicken sandwich from Wendy's, which is actually really good. I don't even know if they're still doing that though. I like when Argent did his game stuff. You're asking if a tour of your bookshelf is interesting. Yes. Just quickly go through. Don't arrange my bookshelf first. Do it natural. Oh, my bookshelf is already arranged. I'm sort of a bit anal on that shit. I think it would be more interesting if you want to talk about a particular book. Well, I would talk like a little bit about each book as I go through, like, there's this book, that book, kind of thing. I mean, some I might kind of breeze by, but some might be like, this book right here, you need to check out, kind of shit. Talk about what you agree with in a particular book and what helps shape your opinion. Well, it would kind of be like a quick thing on each book on, why. I mean, let me put it this way. I don't keep every book I read. You know what I mean? Like I read a lot, but I don't keep every book I read. A lot of times, if it's like a trade paperback, some sort of comic book type book, it goes up to, like when I have a pile of shit like that, I sell it to my former comic stand that my best friend still runs, so that he can sell it. And it's only a few bucks back, but it's more of a space issue. I don't want a ton of shit everywhere. So if I'm keeping a book on my bookshelf, it's because it does mean something to me. But yeah, I would like to see if again, I'm looking at the chat. It'd be interesting to see if you guys would find that interesting. Do a jack off stream, become the new DSP. No, I'm okay. Somebody said thoughts on the new Rick and Morty. Well, yes, episode 2 of season 3 came out last night. While I really, really liked episode 1 of season 3 that they showed back in April, and I'm not going to say like it was really bad. Like I didn't like outright dislike it, but I did not care for this past episode. This past episode is very much like I've never agreed with the analysis that Rick and Morty is inherently nihilistic. I think many of the characters in it are, but I don't think you're supposed to really take their opinions for your own. That said, though, this last episode was too dark for its own good, in my opinion. Yeah, it was too dark for its own good. Why did Rick and Morty take so long to release its second episode? Well, this is when the season was supposed to start, right? And they released the first episode of the season back in April, basically to fuck with people for an April Fool's joke. Like it was supposed to be this big Samurai Jack marathon leading up to the new episode. And instead they just ran that episode of Rick and Morty all night to fuck with people. Because the Adult Swim guys like to fuck with people. That's just something they like. But yeah, we'll see. It's not a bad episode, mind you. I mean, it's not like, I'm saying, it's not like that fucking gun control episode of Arrow where I couldn't even make it through it. It just, yeah, it's not quite the reasons I fell in love with that show. Pastor Tom's messaging me. By the way, I did see other people messaging me on Skype, like, I want in to talk. Like Nightwish fan or whatever wanted in to talk and that kind of stuff. Like, and I didn't mean to ignore you. I just was kind of on a fucking rant at the time. So, like, that's why I wasn't really looking at Skype at the time. But Pastor Tom says he wants to hop in. I'll let him hop in. Nightwing fan or Nightwish fan, I want to keep wanting to say Nightwish fan. He said something came up, had a good stream. So I'm not ignoring him permanently, just so everyone knows. I would be letting him in at this point now. But I'm going to let Pastor Tom in. I'm not really going to do callers per se, but I haven't had Tom on in a while, so let the good pastor on. But yes, by the way, anybody in the chat, if you think the bookshelf video would be good, and I mean I can't promise much. I'm gonna try, and it's mostly gonna be making sure like audio and visual is okay on the camcorder and shit like that, like lighting and crap like that. I've done videos on the camcorder before, while ago. Like I did a couple of action figure reviews, but I'm gonna try and do a little better this time. We'll see. I don't know. I have a tripod that came with it. I don't know if the tripod's even really tall enough to look at like the top shelf. I might try holding it by hand, but is that going to be too shaky? I don't know. I'll figure it out. Like I said, this is mostly an experiment video. Boy. Uh-oh, Pastor Tom's in here. Everybody has to behave.
Hello.
How's it going, Tom?
Yeah, pretty good. How you doing?
Not bad. I think I accidentally started Comic Gate.
Well, yeah. What happened with all that? So I'm just kind of catching up now. I've been working all day and kind of been busy this past week, and so I just sort of you ticked off. What's his name? Mika, which I've heard a couple of his videos. He seemed like he's a pretty reasonable guy. So
Yeah,
what'd you do?
He doesn't seem that bad, but he's kind of going all faggot on us here. What happened was, and I actually originally saw this tweet because Daddy Warpig on Twitter, who if you're on Twitter, you should be following him. He did it with a screen cap, which maybe I should have. But he was like, look at what Marvel is now, and it's Heather Antos's Twitter, who's one of the senior editors at Marvel or assistant editors at Marvel or one of the many editors at Marvel. She's out with like a fucking dozen like what looks like 13-year-old girls who are apparently running the show at Marvel right now. And I just retweeted that original tweet from Heather with a caption above it said, "Gee, I wonder why Marvel can't sell comics right now." And a few other people hopped on it too from Daddy Warpig thing. Well, everyone's run with that of all these salty tweets that she got is like, see, she's being harassed.
Oh, brother, that's a pretty innocuous tweet.
The worst tweet she got is from me that I know of. Maybe there's others, but this was featured in the Telegraph article talking about her harassment. This is the worst tweet. Mine was the rudest. William Rome hops in there and he says, "I totally banged that chick in the center," and I respond to it. You might want to sign a consent. You might want to have her sign a consent form first. She looks like the false rape charge type. That's the rudest thing I saw in that whole Telegraph article. And I would also like to add, wasn't even directed at her. It was one of those replies to my tweet where I retweeted her thing. So that wouldn't even show up in her mentions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that was
okay. It was rude. Big deal. You know, if you can't handle the bants, go back to the kitchen, sweetie. And again, wasn't even directed at her. That's the absolute worst thing I saw. That tweet where you're like, yeah, that's kind of rough. It's not like people are like sending her like, you know, fucking rape porn or something. Nobody's doing that to her. Like when people were asking her about like this harassment, she couldn't even show anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely.
But she climbed up on the cross in a big fucking way about it.
Yeah, weird.
But anyways, that Mika guy, Mika Curtis, he had a nice little live stream where he wanted to defend the honor of Milady because you know this harassment isn't helping us guys, you know, and apparently he was talking shit about me in there because you know. Oh well, and again, he can come on here if he ever decides, you know, if his balls ever drop, he can come on here and he can talk to me like a man, or he can be a little bitch. Either way, my life goes on.
Right. Yeah, I probably won't come on. I would imagine.
Oh no, and I mean he's a bigger channel than I am, anyways. He has nothing to gain from it. It's. You know, from a purely selfish standpoint, it I guess serves him better to continue to be a little bitch. And
well, although I mean, I guess if I were to play devil's advocate, though, if someone was talking about me the way that you were talking about him just then, I don't know if I would necessarily go on that person's channel either because that would sound like a trap.
But remember, I'm not the one that started the let's talk shit about each other.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I hadn't heard what he said about you.
To be honest, I haven't either, but I'm told it was quite bad. I didn't listen to it because I was too busy, you know, doing anything else. But no, apparently, you know, I'm an evil misogynist and I probably rape women or whatever bullshit feminist talking points he was cucking about. And again, he wants to come on here, you know, anybody can attest that I treat guests on here with nothing but fucking respect. I am far too lenient with people on my channel. So yeah, I can come on his channel and he can throw me off anytime he wants. I don't care. But he's not. Apparently, people were tweeting that at him right away, and he's like, "I don't have to defend my accusations." All right, be a little bitch then.
Well, I would say maybe it might be a better topic if you debate, you know, what is acceptable or unacceptable tactics in this whole thing, right? And I guess in, a meme war or something, that might be a better topic as opposed to just getting into, who said what, because I mean, then that's just YouTube drama, right? A debate about, okay, what's actually appropriate versus what's inappropriate. Yeah, that could be more interesting and more useful, I would say. If you were to debate each other, and he might be more interested in doing debate on that rather than, you can come on here and, you talked crap about me. And so you can come on here and defend that,
Well, and I agree that would be the debate to be having. But I don't know. I'm so over wanting to tone police. You know what I mean? Like, again, to defend my specific comment there, Craig set me up for a joke, and I hit it out of the park there. Boom, there you go. I think it was pretty funny. Wasn't even directed at her. This young lady would have had to dig just to find it, and big deal. Like, big damn deal. I don't know, like nerd culture. I've been in this geekdom, this nerd culture for so fucking long, and it very much has its own locker room talk, and it always has, and it should. It really should. And I just don't like this idea that, we gotta worry about Milady and all this shit. No.
I hear you. I'm just saying, I mean, like I said, if it were me, that would be the conversation to have is that, is that good or not? Like, again, rather than the YouTube drama, it's like, look, I don't, that's not a bad thing, or that is a bad thing. I guess that would be his position, that would be the conversation, so that's all I was saying. I'm not, again, like I said, I have my standards for talking and my tone and that kind of thing. So,
and also, I would like to point out that my initial tweet, my initial point that, this is why Marvel sales are in the shitter. Nobody was disputing the fact that Marvel sales are in the shitter. No one was disputing the fact that, yes, Marvel does technically outsell DC right now because of the sheer volume of books. But Marvel is going down. DC is actually creeping up just a touch now. DC is heading in the right direction when it comes to the sales trajectory. That is despite the fact that Marvel characters are extremely popular right now. Now, yes, not everyone who goes and sees Captain America or Avengers or Ant-Man or Doctor Strange or whatever the hell else they see is going to want to go pick up a comic book. But some of them are. Marvel, you should be seeing, God forbid, just a touch of an increase in your sales, and you're not.
Well, not only that, but with the being bought by Disney should increase your sales in comics, if anything. I mean, you got this whole new, brand new kids who go into the Disney store and they see all this Marvel stuff. That should spur their interest in comic books. And if it's not, then yeah, what's the problem?
Yeah, well, I mean, the American public has not been more in love with superheroes in lifetimes, basically. I mean, you almost have to go back to World War II soldiers reading Superman and Captain America in their downtime to find a time when the American public was more in love with the idea of the superhero. And Marvel can't sell comic books to save their soul. A high-selling comic book at Marvel is like a couple 100,000 copies. That's their big summer event comic book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, again, we live in a day and age where everyone knows who Ant-Man is. So, I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be selling more popular comic books.
Yeah.
Because I had never heard of Ant-Man before the movie. But like I said, I'm one of those people who I'll watch the movie, but I don't really have any interest in picking up the comic book. I'll say that right off the bat. Like, of course, again, I don't even watch all the movies. I think I like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I liked Ant-Man and Captain America and I guess the some of the Avengers. And that's been pretty much it. I've not been as much into the other movies, I guess.
My dad's actually a huge fan of superhero movies. Never read the comic books. Never had any interest in it. But it'd be Ant-Man. Who the hell's Ant-Man? I can't wait to see it. Like, that's literally his reaction to every superhero movie now. It's just like, yes.
Oh, yeah, I saw Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was actually pretty good. Although I was a lot more invested in what the guys were doing at the end than I was in Wonder Woman. Like, like with the plane and the war and everything like that, I was like, this is a lot more interesting than the fight that Wonder Woman was having. And my wife felt the same way.
Yeah, but I'm just about inclined to call that DC's best film ever.
Yeah, no, I
I
can't say
got I
that.
got to give it time to like digest it and all, but I mean, there's very few DC films I would be even tempted to say I like more.
No, I mean,
Certainly,
I like
certainly no
Batman
recent
Begins
stuff.
more than Wonder Woman. It's close, and I think The Dark
Eh,
Knight objectively is a better movie.
I don't
Um,
know. Those Nolan movies just don't age well to me. Like every time I watch them, I like them less.
nah, see, I'm different. I can see that for The Dark Knight, but Batman Begins, the more I watch it, the more I like it.
That's actually the one I like. I just it gets harder and harder to sit through almost.
Batman Begins?
It's just so like tedious at times. I Here's the thing about it. Like Batman Begins, and one of the things it really wanted to seek out to do, and it did it quite well in all fairness, was just really pull the curtain back and explain everything about Batman. And there comes a point where it's just kind of like, I don't know. Like, let me put it this way: like, Nostalgia Critic made this point. It was a very good point. If you compare like Michael Keaton's Batman to The Dark Knight,
Yeah.
um, in Michael Keaton's Batman, Batman is the more interesting character, I would say, because we don't know as much about him. We know what we need to know about Batman, and that's about it. We know everything about the Joker in 1989's Batman. We know all there is to know about this guy. Whereas in Dark Knight, in many regards, Joker is the far more interesting character because we know everything there is to know about Batman. We don't know all but jack shit about the Joker. There's a certain mystique about that should be about Batman that's just completely gone in those movies, in my opinion. And I think the third one is a wreck. I think
Well,
it's a
no, I
mess.
don't. I'm not a big fan of the Dark Knight Rises. Definitely has a lot of problems. I get your point, and I certainly understand the idea of having mystique. And like I said, I think there are things that I like about the Tim Burton Batman movie that I think are really good. And Batman, especially Michael Keaton as Batman, is one of them. Somebody else in the comments mentioned something about the architecture. Again, the architecture of Gotham and that Gothic style. I like that a lot better in the Tim Burton movie as well. However, I think the story and the character of Batman and understanding that is important. And Batman Begins, in my opinion, is one of those films that I think was necessary to happen, though, because we hadn't had that similar type of full origin story. And again, that to me, that was interesting seeing, how he learned to, making the batarangs and the bat symbol and sort of how he became Batman. That's a very interesting film. I guess because I like, that type of world building and stuff. And so that's why I enjoy those types of movies, is seeing the origins of things and the becoming of that character.
I don't
So
think they're bad movies. And when I first saw them, each of them, I just thought, oh, they're just the most amazing thing ever. They just they just don't age well in my mind. Like each time I like them, or each time I watch them, I like them just a touch less. Whereas if you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said, like when they were both kind of new, I'd have probably said they were both better than Michael Keaton's Batman. And as time goes on, I'm like, nah, Michael Keaton's Batman was better. And again, the architecture is a perfect example because I think if you're doing Batman and Superman movies, Gotham should always have this vague, yes, it's the present day, but it's got this vague 1930s touch to it. And Metropolis should always have a vaguely futuristic touch to it. That's just important for fleshing out the kind of soul of these cities. Although, you talk about missing the point. These new movies have the two literally across the river from each other.
yeah, well, no, I mean the Batman versus Superman movie. There's a good movie in there, but it's buried under two other movies that were full movies in and of itself. I will say, in my opinion, and I know I'm going to tick off everybody here. They're all going to think I'm stupid, but one of the movies that gets Superman the most right, in my opinion, in some areas. Now they screw him up in another one, but it's Superman Returns. At least in the challenge for Superman, that is one of the few films
Honestly,
that actually gets him right. Now they
Superman
screwed it up
Returns
by
is
giving him a child that he's not the father of. But in terms of the challenge for Superman, that's a film that does it right.
Superman Returns is damn near Superman's best movie, and I don't even think it's a particularly good movie. I just think it's damn near Superman's best movie. Depending on my mood, I might say Man of Steel is better, but Superman Returns is grossly underrated.
No, I agree. I mean, again, you need to get rid of the kid. If you got rid of the kid, the film would be a whole lot better. That is something that doesn't need to be in there. It doesn't add a whole lot to the story. It doesn't really do much for Superman's character. Get that out. But the biggest thing, though, and this is where, again, where it gets Superman right, the challenge for Superman doesn't need to be him fighting the bad guy. That's the challenge for Batman, Spider-Man, all the rest of this crap. Here's the thing. That doesn't need to be the challenge for Superman because he's supposed to be the super strong, the strongest character. He can do all invincible, all this kind of stuff, right? The challenge for him is protecting everybody else. Superman is more of a hero than he is a crime fighter. And that's what you see in Superman Returns, is he is flying around using his power to save the people of Metropolis. That's his challenge. And so the tension lies not in whether or not Superman will live or die, but whether or not the people of Metropolis will live or die. And so if you really want to craft a good Superman story, you need to have good characters in Metropolis, people that we care about. And that's how you build tension of whether or not in the bad guy's scheme, you know, he's planning to destroy the city and Superman has to stop that from happening rather than just defeating the bad guy.
Yes, the threat isn't so much being defeated as it is failing.
Yeah.
And yeah, one of the things I always loved about the 90s cartoon was the idea of Lex Luthor, and I mean, they certainly didn't come up with this idea, but they did it quite well, being, by all accounts to the general public, this legitimate businessman. You know, I mean, Superman knew what he was doing, but because he had this respect for the law, you know, I mean, what's he going to do about it? You know, he has to prove it, in other words. It becomes a problem he can't simply punch.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he could, I guess, fly into LexCorp and rip his head off if he wanted to, but that's not how he rolls, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, the nice thing about Superman and also Batman, and here's the thing about Batman that I don't think a lot of people get, at least from what I used to get, but it's sort of changed. I don't think the reason why Batman doesn't kill is not because he thinks that necessarily killing is bad. It's because he's not putting himself that far above the law, you know?
Yes, that's what a lot of people don't get, and it's the same with characters like Spider-Man and all.
It's not their job to kill people. If they kill, they're a murderer at that point. That's different from arresting or, you know, incarcerating somebody and then handing them over to the police.
Yes,
and letting
exactly.
the law do its job.
When you ask like why Batman doesn't kill the Joker, in many regards, I think you're asking the wrong question. The real question is, why doesn't, I don't know, whatever the
government kill him?
Yeah. Why doesn't the government execute the Joker lawfully? Why can the government not keep this 90-pound, you know, no stronger than a normal man person locked up? That, like, why does Batman have to do everything, essentially? You know, he's already going out there. He's already doing this. Why should the people of Gotham expect him to take that additional burden and bloody his hands with this guy's life? No, you know, and there's also the sense of, you know, you're already out there, you're already operating largely beyond the law. You have to kind of draw a line for yourself somewhere. In some regards, it's even more important for someone like Superman because there's not a lot of checks on you. You know what I mean? I mean,
there's no checks on you.
Having the power of Superman, I mean, you know, yeah, there's certain people that could probably take him down in the regular universe.
With plot convenience. I mean, in reality, Superman can fly so fast he can go back in time. You know, so he could kill Batman before Batman even can think to open the box. Okay, kryptonite. I mean, there's just really no competition.
I happen to think probably Hal Jordan and Barry Allen together could probably take him out.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Barry Allen is fast to an extent that essentially renders spatial distance an abstract concept.
But all Superman has to do is has to get one hit on him.
Barry Allen, like, power limit, the power limit of the Flash is literally as far as he can tap this power without getting lost in it, essentially. That's the only cap on him. Like, if he taps too far into the Speed Force, he's liable to completely lose himself in it, like some sort of nirvana where he becomes one with it to the point of basically being wiped out. That's his only real cap on his power. And there's other characters. I mean, you know, you get a handful of other Kryptonians together that could probably take him out. You know,
I guess I'll yield to your comic knowledge before the T count gets too low.
But the point is, either way, there's not a lot of caps on you. Yes, there are ways to take you out if need be, but by and large, you're pretty well beyond accountability. You know, there's maybe a dozen people on the planet that can give you any level of shit. Okay. So yes, you have to draw a line for yourself somewhere. And to the same extent, you know, somebody even like Spider-Man, you're already operating outside the law. At a certain point, you have to say, this is a line I'm not going to cross. Now, Spider-Man, I will freely admit, is kind of faggy about it sometimes. No one will die and all this kind of crap. Every life is precious. But what I honestly like is that a lot of writers actually basically admit that Spider-Man's being kind of faggy about it. Like, there's actually a scene in the storyline Maximum Carnage where Spider-Man stops Venom from killing Carnage, and Spider-Man's like going on about how, you know, Cletus Cassidy, Carnage was abused as a child and all this shit. And even Carnage calls him a fag for it. like even Carnage is like, even I don't buy that crap.
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen the new Spider-Man Homecoming yet. But I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to see if they could do a better Spider-Man than Spider-Man 2. To me, that's still the best Spider-Man film that I've seen so far.
I will say this: if Spider-Man Homecoming didn't have all the fucking diversity hires in the high school cast, if you had a real MJ, if you had a real Flash Thompson, the half black chick Liz, I don't mind, and the fat Filipino kid, I don't mind. They're actually good additions. Both of them are actually interesting characters. But if you'd had a proper MJ and a proper Flash Thompson, I'd have called this the best Spider-Man movie.
I don't know. Like I said, haven't seen it yet, but Spider-Man 2 is probably it's still one of my favorite superhero movies too. I think it's a lot better than a lot of the Marvel movies. It's really a shame what happened with Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 1 and 2 are damn good. I think Spider-Man 3 is not nearly as bad as everyone says.
Spider-Man, okay, it's not as bad as everybody says, but it's got the problem where it's the same problem as Batman v Superman, in my opinion, where it tries to do way too much. You've got several different concepts that could be full movies in and of. Sandman and that whole thing, he could do his own movie. Venom can be his own movie, and Harry Osborn could be his own movie. I mean, ideally, you could have Harry Osborn fight Black Suit Spider-Man, and then the next movie, that sets up Venom, and then in the next movie, he fights Venom.
I would have actually put Harry on the floor. Harry's Green Goblin, I don't think worked well at all. And don't get me wrong, part of Harry's character is part of Harry Osborn's character has always been that he was kind of a fuck up. And that's interesting about him, but it almost would have been better if he'd have been kind of behind the scenes pulling the strings. I love Sandman. I love the way Sandman was depicted in that. Everything except the we're going to make it so Sandman killed Uncle Ben or some nonsense. That was terrible. Gwen Stacy doesn't need to be in it at all, because the only interesting thing Gwen Stacy ever did was get herself murdered. So if you're not planning on having the Green Goblin kill her, there's no point in putting Gwen Stacy in any adaptation. So I'd cut her completely out of it.
Take out the Saturday night strut scene and just make him more violent.
Yeah, I would just make him almost like quiet and just kind of brooding and violent and angry. And I mean, maybe that even, you know, gets the attention of a few girls. You could certainly do that. But it would almost be better if like that got him the attention of some girls, but he didn't even notice because he was just so fucking like, I want to fuck everything up.
I don't know if he necessarily needs to be like that. It's more as if, you know, he has. I think the whole point that I've seen with like the Black Suit Spider-Man is the fact that he has this power, but the symbiote sort of quiets that part about the responsibility, and so he's more irresponsible. You know, he's more angry, but he's also less responsible with the power that he now has, and so that's kind of the dichotomy, and that feeds back into the constant theme of Spider-Man of power and responsibility.
It boosts his power, but actually, originally in the comics, it didn't even really alter his personality. He only discovered it because the symbiote was feeding off of adrenaline, so it actually like would take him over and have him go out and do stuff while he was sleeping. So he actually had the thing tested because he was just feeling exhausted. That's how he discovered it was alive. But it's much more interesting to have it altering his personality, and that's what every other adaptation ever did, like the cartoons and whatnot. But yeah, I would have had almost an entirely a black costume movie than a Venom movie, Part of the reason I think is like Sam Raimi resented the fact that he had to have Venom in there because he didn't like Venom, and I almost think Sam Raimi purposely sabotaged it. Like, there's parts of me that think he purposely kind of shit it up.
Yeah, he wanted to do Sandman. I think that's what he really wanted to do, and of course,
the reason they had to do Venom, and
well, the fans in the studio wanted it.
Yes, exactly. Like Spider-Man's top 3 villains are Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and Venom in that order.
Yeah.
So back then, especially when studios were never sure if they were going to do sequels, you were obviously going to do the villains in their biggest order. You know, you were going to do Green Goblin first, then you were going to do Doc Ock, then you were going to do Venom. That's just how.
And eventually, you got to do the Lizard. They've been setting that up since the first movie.
Yeah, it would have been. The Lizard's a really tragic story. I like the story of the Lizard. I didn't care for him that much in Amazing Spider-Man, to be honest.
Oh, no. That was, I never believed, like, you know, Spider-Man 1's a little bit dated now. Like, you can, it hasn't aged very well. Spider-Man 2, I think, is still held up very well. The Amazing Spider-Man, not for 1 second did I ever really believe he was like, did I ever, you know, could suspend my disbelief to believe that he was fighting the Lizard. To me, it always looked fake. It never looked good or anything like that. Dr. Octopus looked real. I mean, you know, that looked really good. Now, yeah, some of the special effects haven't aged well, but a lot of the practical effects still, to me, really hold up. Those claws look like they could still move, look like they could do what they're supposed to do, but the Lizard guy didn't buy it. You know, now the Green Goblin and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 looked good. I mean, well, he looked kind of stupid, but I mean, as far as the effects or anything, that still looked good.
I still haven't seen it, to be honest. And, you know, the funny thing is I own it and I haven't seen it.
Oh, that's weird.
Like I got it at Target on sale, and I just keep meaning to be like, I guess I should watch this, and I'm like, I'd rather not. Like I know it's gonna suck, so I just whatever.
Again, same problem though, trying to fit too much stuff into one movie. I mean, people just, you know, I don't know if it's the studios or the writers or whoever, directors, you know, stick to one thing at a time. Stop trying to do 5 different things that are worth their own movie in one movie. Do one thing, you know, and it end up a lot better. Movies don't have to be as, you know, huge stakes as they have now. Sometimes people enjoy the more, you know, quiet movies where the stakes aren't necessarily as high. You know, it's not like the end of the world, but it's like this person's life, you know?
Somebody asked me on Twitter, like, or on Skype actually, what would you like to see, you know, when the Marvel Cinematic Universe just inevitably winds down, when the actors are too old or whatever, when eventually they have to just kind of reboot it, you know, if they want to keep doing it. Eventually they're going to have to start over. I would like to see almost entirely go the route of like interconnected shows, because there's so much to adapt, like especially if, like, let's say, I don't know, 10, 15 years from now they want to start it over. You know, like maybe it's gone, maybe they let it actually lay for a little bit. Which who knows if that'll happen because nobody has any ideas anymore. But let's say they actually were smart enough to say, no, let this lay down for a little bit and we'll come back to it later. And then 10, 15 years from now, they decided, okay, let's start doing Marvel stuff again. And maybe at that point you even have like X-Men and Fantastic Four rights, and you could do everything, right? At that point, I would say just do interconnected shows. And the general population would be familiar enough with characters that you wouldn't have to do as much build up before, you know what I mean? Like you could almost start with just an Avengers show and the Avengers just exist, you know, maybe a brief thing at the beginning that shows, you know, how things came to be, but there it is. Avengers and Spider-Man and Daredevil and Fantastic Four and all these interconnected shows that stand alone on their own, but are interconnected.
That would like be the Arrow and or like some of the Netflix shows with like Iron Fist and stuff.
Yeah, or like the Netflix shows do a really good job of this. Arrow and Flash do a really good job of this. Do it that way, because see the temptation to throw so much shit in these movies is because there's so damn much shit to do. You know what I mean? There's decades and decades of storytelling. You know, when you're dealing with somebody like Spider-Man, you have one of the richest rogues galleries in comics history. You know, Like, let me put it this way: movies are never going to be able to properly build up to, say, Carnage. You know what I mean? They're never going to be able to get there unless they just rapidly jump the gun. Because you need to have Spider-Man active for at least a little while before he gets a black costume. You need to have him in a black costume for a little while. Then you need to have Venom. You need to do some Venom stuff. And then you can get to Carnage. And I mean, like, if you want to do that in movies, you're talking like the 6th or 7th sequel to do that properly. You know what I mean? Whereas
yeah, well, I mean, that's I don't know. I think people have lost the ability to translate comics to movies. Well, I think Marvel has made writers a little bit lazy in that regard. I mean, if you've noticed, there's been a real shift in sort of how movies were made. You know, because there was a translation from the comic to the movie, and Marvel's just like, well, forget the translation. We're just going to almost do it, by the by. I mean, just put the whole comic up there basically, and so that's what they've been doing with the cinematic universe. But I think there are some things that you can translate to film. I mean, you may not be able to do Carnage in like this. I don't think it would necessarily take the 6th movie. I think you could probably set it up for the 3rd movie, maybe if you're a talented writer. But again, and talented director, all that kind of stuff. But we don't see as much of that now, I think, because of the Marvel movies. And granted, you might could do it better the way that Marvel's doing it, but I do sort of miss the days with Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man 2, that's not exactly like the comic book, but instead is a translation for the audiences. Same thing for, like, someone's eventually probably going to start redoing the Transformers movies. I think the first Transformer movie was a good translation of the series to the big screen. It's not a one-to-one, switch. It's a translate. I use the phrase translation. Some things are altered for the sake of a movie viewing audience, and so that's important. Same thing for other franchises. So I'd like to see more of that happening, but that requires more talent. And I just don't think there's as much talent really in Hollywood, or at least that they're able to do.
Well, in like Flash and Arrow, there's a lot of things that are altered. But I never feel like they're missing the spirit of things. You know what I mean? And I never feel like they're ashamed of the source material. There are times, one of my biggest criticisms of the Nolan movies is that they feel like Batman movies that don't want to be Batman movies. And the third one is the worst at that. The third one is where it's just laid bare, like, we just don't want to be a fucking superhero movie at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's my problem with Man of Steel, is that it's a Superman movie that wants to be a Batman movie.
Yes. I will say, though, the one thing Man of Steel does tremendously well is Zod. Because Zod actually has motivation in Man of Steel. I mean, like in Superman 2, Zod is just a dick. Like, that's his whole motivation, is he's just a dick.
I like Terrence Howard or whoever.
No, it's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not even a bad. It's not a bad performance, and it's not even a bad character. Like, some people are just dicks. I mean, so there's going to be villains that they just want to be a dick. That that's how it's going to be. But those aren't necessarily the richest and most interesting villains. The more interesting villains are the ones where you really totally get why they're fighting. You just don't agree. You understand. It's a very legitimate thing that they want to accomplish. They're just going about it in an illegitimate way. Magneto is a good example of that. He merely wants, the preservation of his race, of his people. Nothing wrong with that at all. But I'm going to kill everybody is not exactly the way to go about that. You're really just making things worse for you people.
Well, or you can't wipe out another race of people to preserve your own.
But you completely understand where he's coming from. I want what's best for my people. Okay, I totally get you there, man. You're not really doing your people any favors ultimately, but I totally get what you're fighting for there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think, like I said, I think the first 2 X-Men movies were good in that regards and understanding that about Magneto. And of course, I think X-Men First Class did a pretty good job with that up until the end. And again, that's stuff that we can see in lots of other movies as well, and lots of other genres too. But it stems back to the problem of, I think, storytelling. So I don't know. I'd like to see some honest to goodness sci-fi return. I haven't seen a sci-fi movie, like a legitimate science fiction movie. I've seen, movies that take place in the science fiction universe, that take place in space in the future, but like not an actual science fiction movie. I'd love to see one of those again. One of these slow, very, again, science that actually has like the science in its fiction, not science fantasy, but science fiction. I'd love to see one of those movies.
I heard
again.
Life is like that. No, I haven't seen that, but I heard Life is a pretty good sci-fi flick. I think Passengers is a pretty good sci-fi flick.
It's okay, but I mean,
look, it's got a lot of action and romance as its main thing. But I actually found the design of the ship incredibly interesting in Passengers.
Yeah, but I'd say to me, it's one of those films that takes place in a science fiction setting, but it's not really science fiction, in my opinion. I mean, look, when I think of science fiction, and I'm talking about like legitimate science fiction, I mean, one example would be the motion picture. That's a science fiction film.
Wait, the motion picture?
Star Trek, the motion picture.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's also not a very good science fiction film.
No, I think it's a good science fiction film. I just don't think a lot of people actually like science fiction. I think The Andromeda Strain is a good science fiction film.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But that's the problem. I don't think a lot of people actually like science fiction. And so it just gets changed. Like Star Wars, in my opinion, really isn't as much science fiction as it is science fantasy.
No, Star Wars is not science fiction.
I mean, The Wrath of Khan would probably be a good science fiction film. Star Trek, the Voyage Home is a good science fiction film.
Yeah. Wrath of Khan's great.
What?
Yeah, Wrath of Khan's just absolutely great.
Well, I mean, again, it's got a lot more, but I mean, there's a lot of science, not necessarily, quote unquote science, but I mean, it's dealing with this concept and it's asking a lot of those interesting questions, Yes, you've got this madman who wants to do it, but the real meat of Wrath of Khan is, creation. Do we have the authority to create life? How is this Genesis device going to be used? How is it going to be used for destructive purposes? The needs of the many, logic, friendship, all of these different themes playing in there. That's what makes it good. You got similar stuff with the Andromeda Strain as well. One of the nice things about the motion picture is you've got this unknown organism out there, that wants to come, and we think it wants to kill us, but how do we handle this? Same thing with the Voyage Home. You got this probe, and it's not necessarily hostile, but it is doing some damage. But how do you fix that? What do we do with this? And so, like I said, to me, there are some good science fiction movies out there, but it's just been a while since I've really seen one that is willing to really be slow, and just take its time. And I guess that's, Blade Runner, I think, is a good science fiction film.
Yeah, I like Blade Runner.
I think Prometheus is a good science fiction film. I know people don't like Prometheus. I get it, but I think it's actually a good film. I think it makes a lot more. I think people don't pay attention to it. That's the other thing, is you got to pay attention to the movie if you want to understand it.
Yeah, I understand Prometheus. I just don't like it.
But at least, I mean, again, you got to admit it's better than Alien Covenant.
Well, I mean, if we're going to lower how much, I actually haven't seen Alien Covenant, but yeah. I mean, there's two things in Prometheus that just irked me, and I've gone on about it. But number one, when the scientist wants to go up and pet the little penis tentacle monster thing, it just was so unbelievably stupid to me that it kind of broke my immersion a little bit, especially when he ran away from a dead alien just earlier. I mean, and maybe that's just how I was brought up, but from a very, very young age, my father and, because I mean, I always loved nature and all, but my father always taught me, you fear and respect the wildlife. You never turn your back on a wild animal. You never, it's not your pet. You don't treat it like it. So in some way it could have, I guess, triggered me just a touch there. The other thing where it's it kind of brought me out of it is when the chick had to do the abortion on her little tentacle monster baby.
C-section.
It's just one of the things that was cool about Alien is that it was a giant penis monster that rapes you to death, but most people didn't consciously catch on to that because there was at least some level of subtlety to that. It just kind of hit you in the hindbrain that's what it was. Whereas now it's that just felt like such a get it moment. Are you getting it yet?
Oh yeah, no. The film's not without its problems. Although I do think that that is a very tense scene, though, with it,
It's a
and it
good
is a very
action
visceral
scene.
scene as well.
It's a good action scene. It's yes, it's a very visceral scene, but at the same time, like after it just left a bad taste in my mouth where I'm
I think it's
like
supposed to
you
leave a
just
bad taste in your mouth, though. I
well
think
no,
that's the point of it.
it didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth because it was disturbing. It left a bad taste in my mouth because I felt like again, like the director just walked onto camera with a sign that said "Get it." Like
Uh, Maybe, but I mean, again, I think yes, he's trying to say certain things, and yes, I get that. But as far as
I mean,
trying to send the same message as he's sending with the xenomorph in the first one, again, I think you're kind of comparing apples to oranges there a little bit. I think in this instance, I think he was more interested in creating a tense, terrifying scene rather than trying to send a particular message about the creature. Now, like I said, I'll admit Alien is a superior film, and Alien is a good science fiction film, and Alien certainly takes its time a lot more as well. It runs a lot slower. Prometheus takes its time, and then it rushes right at the very end, which is its problem. The snake creature. I'll just say this, all right, to defend the film. Okay, the guy runs away from the dead alien because he knows that something killed it. Okay, he saw them running away from something, right? And this guy is so terrified that he falls and gets his head crushed out of because he just collapses trying to get away from whatever it was. So that freaks him out. That's why it freaks him out. After he's been wandering around and he's got a friend there and all this kind of stuff, he sees this creature, and that's his area of expertise. So I think it makes sense that he's not as afraid of it. I mean, again, yes, maybe he was being stupid. I'll admit he was being stupid there. However, again, I think he kind of comes across as a little bit cocky in the first place. That was sort of displayed earlier on in the movie where he kind of makes a little, joke about Darwinianism and that kind of stuff, even though that's not the proper way to say it, but whatever. And so he's also showing off for this other guy that he wants him to, he wants to be friends with this guy. So he's partly showing off. He's trying to be, show that he's cool. This is a creature that's up his alley. It's his, he is a biologist. So this is his area of expertise. And again, that's why he's not as afraid. And it's one thing when it's a creature, and yes, he doesn't know anything about it. But again, you could maybe tell that it was being hostile, but we know that it's hostile because it's an alien movie. I mean, I don't know how many people would actually think it's hostile if they were in that situation. We just know that we're watching a movie at that point. So yes, we know that it's going to do that. I'm not saying that again, I don't know if most people, if they were actually in that situation, would be like, oh yes, this thing is definitely hostile and it's going to eat me because I know I'm in an alien movie right now.
Well, I'm not saying like I'd run away from it, but I'm not going to go try and pet it like he did. Okay. Like he's basically like, who's a good little penis monster?
I agree with that. Again, I think he's showing off for his friend, which was stupid. Yes, he was being stupid, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that he's trying to show off for his friend. Now, again, I'm not saying that the film's perfect. It's got its issues, like I said. I think it gets a bad rap, though. I think it answers more questions than people give it credit for.
I don't know. I get frustrated with a lot of Hollywood movies where I feel like the plot only moves forward based on people being incredibly stupid. And don't get me wrong, yes, people are often very stupid, but when like that seems to be the only thing that moves the plot forward,
You must hate every single horror movie like ever made.
There's a lot of horror movies that bugs me. Yes, there are many, many horror movies where it's like they're like I get it first, but after a while, it's like there's no reason everyone shouldn't be running.
I mean, that's like such a well-known trope that it's made fun of in Cabin in the Woods.
But yeah, don't get me wrong. It does occasionally bug me because it just occasionally I think it reaches a point where I'm like, it just becomes lazy writing. Like, I don't know. It just bugs me after a while. And again, I freely admit part of it is I went into that wanting to see an Aliens prequel, and I don't think that's what I got at all.
See, I think you went in with the wrong expectations. I don't think you should go in trying to see an Alien prequel. I mean, yes, in one sense, that's what it is, but that's also not what it is. Well, it's a movie about origins. Like, the whole theme of the movie is origins. In one sense, it's origins for the alien. In another sense, it's our origins. And in another sense, it's just talking about origins in general, which is also part of the point of the whole, C-section thing and birth, and the fact that she can't give birth and all of these things, in the line, big things have small beginnings. The theme of the movie is origins, and in trying to create a movie that expresses that theme, I think Ridley Scott succeeded. I think that's what he set out to do, and I think in that he succeeded.
Gonna have to agree to disagree on that.
I mean,
Because I almost walked out. Like I'm
wow.
like, this is like, it was right after the little C-section scene where I'm just like, I again, just the way it felt to me was, get it, like, and I'm just, and again, maybe that's because I'm trying to look at this through the lens of the thing it's supposed to be a prequel of, but I'm just like, all right. I was just about like, we're done here.
Yeah.
And again, it's largely arbitrary. I mean, I've put up with dumber shit in movies I've liked, but every once in a while, something just rubs me the wrong way, and I'm like, I think we're done here.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, I think we've rambled on for a while here. Any last thoughts there, Pastor Tom?
I can't even imagine the T count on this stream.
Well,
It's just probably so abysmally low.
well, I think because I am such a misogynist, that actually keeps it up. That keeps the T count relatively high because I clearly hate women and milkshakes.
Someone's going to take a clip of that audio and then it's going to become a meme.
Yes, it's yes.
I mean, I just I don't know. Should we be a man, people, and do good things? Because if you talk about entertainment, even if you have several other streams where you talk about more important things, if you have streams where you talk about entertainment, you can't do that. So we shall talk about the deep complexities of the universe, which is that the universe is complex and deep in many ways. You have to
remember that real men don't like things.
Always go to the grind. Life is a grind.
Yes.
Stick to it.
Yeah, I think carving. What was it Gavin McGinnis said? Where like the only hobby you can have is like carving wood furniture or something like that.
Yes, if I just got through making a table before I came on this stream.
It's like, yeah, I'm sure you carved a couple of butt plugs there too, Gavin.
No, I mean, again, in all serious though, low T's Prometheus. Got to compensate for Tom's low T Prometheus tirade, man. So I guess talking about me as tirade. Anyway, that's fine. It can be a tirade. It probably is a tirade. I probably am reaching some, but that's all right. I like the movie.
I haven't looked at the. Well, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of movies that a lot of people hate that I will defend it. I will defend the Green Lantern movie to the death.
Nah, see, I think that movie's garbage. That's trash.
I think that's one of DC's best films.
Were you kidding me right now?
I love the Green Lantern movie. I love the Green Lantern movie.
Oh my god.
Now, don't get me wrong. Saying it's one of DC's best films is not exactly the highest fucking bar, just so we're clear.
Oh, come on. Wonder Woman's better than the Green Lantern. The Dark Knight, Batman Begins is at least better than the Green Lantern.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. It's like Wonder Woman and Michael Keaton's Batman and possibly Dark Knight are the only DC films I'll put above Green Lantern. And even Dark Knight, you got to hit me on the right mood.
I don't know.
I damn near put Dark Knight as equal with Green Lantern.
I think that movie had potential. It's a mess. But anyway, gosh, getting distracted here. I don't know. It beats me. But in terms of that kind of thing, I don't know. I guess if just to comment on anything, as far as tone policing, I don't think there's any problem with with you personally tone policing yourself. I do that with me. I try to tone police what I say a lot of times, but I think, that's a conversation that you've got to decide and you've got to have that with yourself,
Well, trust me, there's plenty of things on here I don't go out and fucking say. I'm not just a full on troll, but I see a bunch of what looks like SJW feminists. I'm going to make a feminist joke. And hey, what's that one thing feminists are known for? Well, gee, ask Mattress Girl, Again, and I freely admit, mine was the rudest tweet featured. I freely admit that. But you know what? I think you said it best when mine was, I don't know about that. Like, when that's the worst thing you get, I think you have it pretty good there, sweetie. when the worst thing you get is a questionable joke.
No, it's true. I
That
think there
isn't-
could be. I
that
mean,
you
like I
had
said, I
to
haven't seen
dig.
everything this person's saying, and so it's true that they're probably blowing it out of proportion. Again, I don't know. I hadn't seen it, but of course, again, it's possible that she got other harassing tweets that were worse, and they just didn't show those. I don't know.
I am certain they would have shown them.
You know, but of course, again, the other question to ask is how much is it really worth it to getting into it? I mean, you know, it's like, okay, like I said, on the one hand, look, you want to make a joke, fine, make a joke. Comedy's comedy, and that's the thing. And if people don't get it, then fine. And, you know, I try to give a lot of leeway when it comes to jokes. There's only certain things that I don't, you know, that I think I personally find offensive in jokes. You know,
Like Tom
but because it's humor, because it's not meant to be taken seriously. So, but my point would be is just, you know, I don't know. But like I said, in terms of that, you know, again, it is a joke, and that's one thing where people can take a sense of humor. You know, there is a definitive line between making a joke versus making something that's truly harassing. And, you know, saying something like, you know, a joke about false rape accusations is bad taste. I'd say it's bad taste, definitely, but not exactly harassment, I would say.
Yeah, I don't. Nothing she got was harassment. I get worse than that in the chats on my own streams, like from people that are fans of me.
Yeah. Now, I mean, so.
But no, the whole thing's ridiculous, and it's downright shameful. I mean, first of all, the idea that, you know, she is a perfectly qualified editor, a strong, independent woman, but she can't handle mildly salty bants on the twitter.com. I'm seeing a bit of a disconnect there. I don't know. I think this whole, now don't get me wrong, Diversity in Comics is the YouTube channel that's getting the real heat right now, and I think this is far from over. Let me put it that way.
Well, again, you know, I mentioned this in the chat, and I'll say again, you know, the left is gambling that by putting politics into everything, by pushing political agendas and everything, they're gambling that people are just like them, and they're losing in that regards. See, they were winning a whole lot more when they left it out of it, and when people weren't paying as much of attention. They have taken away every piece of middle ground that you can give them. They are intent on removing every rock that you can think to hide under. You know, if you want to hide in the comic realm, you want to hide under the comic rock and avoid all this, they're not going to let you do that. You want to hide under the video game rock and avoid all this, they're not going to let you do that. Sci-fi, Star Trek, whatever, you know, pick a genre or show or anything like that. They want to infuse it in there. And what they're realizing, though, is that as you take away people's hiding places and you force them to say, are you this or are you this? They're realizing people aren't really with them. There's a lot more people that are against them now that they forced them out into the open. They gambled and they lost.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's why they need to stop pushing politics into everything. The more they do that, the more they're pulling people away from it. And I hate to say it, but, you know, this is what I realized with the quote-unquote religious right. They tried to push religion into every single aspect, and they found out people aren't really as religious as they thought they were.
Well,
and you can make of that what you will, but it's the truth. People weren't as religious as a lot of people on the religious right thought they were.
There are massive parallels between the religious right and this current SJW movement. I mean, I've called them, you know, like 4 years ago, I guess it was now, I called them the new, like a left-wing moral majority. People have referred to them as, you know, the new church ladies or the new Puritans or whatever. There's definitely a quasi-religious bent to this, and they definitely act like the worst stereotypes of a religious person.
It's legalism. Unfortunately, it's legalism where nobody knows the rules. You know, at least with the religious right, you had a Bible and you could sort of read it, and you could kind of, for the most part, sort of have a pretty good understanding of where you stood, as long as they were trying to be consistent, and you at least had something to draw them with. With the SJWs, what standards do you hold them to? They have no rule book. They have no, you know, code or anything like that. I mean, you know, again, the right, the religious right, the moral majority or whatever, you know, these were people who basically had the attitude that, you know, unless you look like me and sound like me, you're not a Christian, and ergo you're a horrible, terrible person, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. This is just, you know, if you don't look like me and you don't sound like me, you're a horrible, terrible person, and we need to have the government lock you up.
It is legalism with a perpetually moving goalpost.
Yeah. And I guess that would be the difference is with the religious right, it was an inconsistent goalpost, but it wasn't, they didn't move it too far out of bounds most of the time. You at least had some idea where you would be, whereas in this thing, it could be anything. I mean, things that were okay 2 years ago you're the devil if you do them today. Just 2 years.
Yes.
Sometimes even within a couple of months.
And that's why, that's why they lose so many. That's another reason they lose so many people is, even if you wanted to keep up with this, you almost can't.
No.
After a while, people, even if they were inclined to try and keep up with political correctness, they just get tired. They're like, I give up.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, from my point of view, I think where, as far as for Christians are concerned, you stick to what Scripture says, and where Scripture isn't exactly where it doesn't have it spelled out, you allow for some freedom. I don't go around telling people what movies they should or should not watch. I do say, again, you be careful what you watch, be careful what you're putting in your brain. But again, that's where it sort of stops. Then you got to decide that. Again, the Scripture says, don't let any coarse language come out of your mouth. Well, for me, that means don't swear, but if somebody else is going to take that and they're going to be like, well, I can swear sometimes or not. Again, ultimately, that's between them and the Lord. I have my view. We can talk about it and we can sort of come to an agreement or something. But again, in one sense, I got to recognize that, well, what exactly does coarse language mean? That is, in some instances, that means different things for different people in some sense. And so there is a little bit of freedom that can be allowed there.
I tend to think of it as a situational thing. I mean, there are plenty of times where I don't curse at all, and there are times where I curse a lot because it's like a manners thing. It's a time and a place thing. Now, taking the Lord's name in vain, that's something I legitimately try to not do because I think that's just inherently wrong. I'm not going to say I don't fail at that occasionally, but that I think is that's an objective standard, not a subjective one.
Well, yeah, I mean that's
there's some people.
Out.
There's some people who be like saying something sucks is swearing. You know what I mean? I just view it as a time and place thing. But again, that's a whole different argument.
Well, I think it can be in one sense, but see, for me, my driving force is okay. And what I say, and in any context of what I say, it though, because for myself, I do consider myself an ambassador of Christ. So how do I want to represent Christ? And again, I'll admit I live that inconsistently. You could probably find times where I'm not the best representative, absolutely, but that is one thing that I do try to think, to be a more a guiding principle in one sense is okay. Is this a good representation or is this a poor representation? And that's one of the areas where I think, people need to sort of decide that, at least in terms of believers. They need to have that description. But again, people talk differently in different places. And again, yeah, you could maybe say that there are some places where, you absolutely need to watch what you say. And then there are other places where you can be a little bit more loose. So, and I guess it depends on how sort of seriously you want to take that particular situation. I do think there are some things, though, that in any situation, they're maybe not appropriate to say. So again, like, I'll say this, I will defend the honor of my wife, right? If someone were to start saying things to my wife, I would have an issue with that. Now, again, I'm not going to like whine or complain. I'm going to be like, dude, you don't need to say that,
Not going to form a hashtag on Twitter to defend.
No, I ain't going to form a hashtag on Twitter, but it may be like, you ever seen the show Justified?
Mm-hmm.
There, I mean, again, they let some language fly, right? But one thing that you see consistent with a lot of the characters is you don't disrespect their women.
Well, yeah, I'll grant that. I just, all of a sudden I got a lot of nerds that wish this Heather chick was their woman. So,
well, again, that's an issue in and of itself, and I mean a whole other thing.
All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Tom, thanks for hopping on. It's always good to have you on.
Well, pleasure to be on. So glad I could share stuff. So
by all means. All right, that's all we got for tonight, folks. Real quick though, if you haven't already, do check out my Disney channel. I got, what is it now? 4 videos on there, 3, something like that. I don't know. I got a bunch of videos on there. There's videos on there. There's gonna be more videos on there. So check out my Disney channel. It's good stuff. I'm very proud of it. I'm almost more proud of it than I am of this channel. And if you enjoyed the podcast, if you enjoyed the live stream here, you can check out the tip jar down below. Remember, every dollar you give me makes the White Knight cry. So,
and please donate. He needs some new sound system.
Yes, I do. for my robot voicing.